And if we turn to prison, so you worked in Strangeways from, I believe, 2005 to 2016.
Yep.
And if we talk about the structure of the staff inside a prison, from the bottom to the number one governor.
Yep. Just to give you an idea of,
Yes, please, yes.
right, okay. So we have OSGs. Every prison, private and public sector, has OSGs. In a private sector, they're called orderlies or something similar. Yeah. These people, a lot of their roles are administrative roles, and they support prison officers, hence OSG, operational support grade. You know, for instance, a job they do that is a thankless task will be searching visitors, including children, when they come into prison to visit their loved ones. They would work in the gate, which is no prisoner contact, and they would work in emergency control room. That's the operation, you know, the heart of the prison, where you know, they'll be answering radios, unlocking gates. If there's an emergency, I have been in there. If there's an alarm bell, they have gates to control. They are taking radio messages. They're trying to direct traffic. Very, very stressful job. So that is the lowest rank, as it were. However, it is a very important role. You've got prison officer in uniform. The next rank is a senior officer. That is like a wing-based manager. So when I was at Strangeways, every wing, including the segregation, visits, other areas, all have a senior officer on shift. The next rank above that is principal officer. They would be a wing manager, as in they would oversee a wing, or they may well oversee the visits. They may well oversee the segregation. So that is the step from them is governor. So it's prison officer, senior officer, principal officer. The principal officer, a role, a group of them, also they do the Oscar 1 and Oscar 2 duties. Again, private public sector, Oscar 1 and Oscar 2 are the shift managers. So you will always have a duty governor at the weekend in any prison, but the Oscar 1s, they run the show. They attend incidents, they deal with shortages of staff, they deal with everything. The duty governor is there if they need a reference point, you know, something serious or whatever, they would call the governor in. But they're principal officers as well. And then governor, you've got various grades. It changes all the time, but basically you've got governors over specific areas. Then you would have a deputy governor. He's the number 2. When the number 1's not there, he's in charge. And obviously, then you have the number 1 governor.
And on a wing in Strangeways, what would be the ratio of inmates to officers on a particular shift?
Okay, so I'll look at K wing. It was the biggest wing in the jail. If we go back before 215, when prisoners were out all day and it was a remand wing, yeah, you'd have about 200 prisoners on the wing. 3 landings, that's over 3 landings. You would have 2 staff on each landing, so there's 6 on the wing. Now the manning for the day was 15, but some of them officers are away from the wing doing other jobs. So actually there will be 6 staff, 200 prisoners. You would have a 7th member staff who was a cleaning officer. They would supervise prisoners who were employed to keep the wing clean and to serve meals.
So what's going through your head then? Because you're so outnumbered on the wing. I mean, have you ever been scared doing it?
Oh, wow. Yeah, plenty of times, absolutely. So, well, the actual staffing ratios now, I believe, are 33-1. And if you're in a high security prison, 25-1. There might be some variation. So what goes through your mind? Well, when I was in the private sector, it was 8-6 on a wing with 2 staff. So obviously they're not good odds. If I give you, for an example, I remember one night I was on F wing with a lad who I knew. He didn't normally work there. He was a PE officer, physical training officer. And whatever was going on the wing that night, it just went very quiet, and I mean quiet. So we got 86 pairs of eyes looking at us. One lad come up to me, told me to get the F off the wing, or we'd be in trouble. So you imagine 86 people are looking at you. Now, you know, some of these lads are quite brutal, violent, nothing, not a word, just staring at us. So I looked at my friend. He's like, oh, so he's going phone the Oscar one. That's the shift manager, yeah?
Yeah.
So he went off to the office and left me on the own. That was the longest 2 minutes of my life in
So
the
you and
prison
86
service.
others.
Yeah, because you don't know where to look. And what ended up happening, you know, a group of lads are looking at me, sort of saying off the wing, and I'm sort of going, you know, you start almost stupidly, you should stand there perhaps and not look at anyone, but you sort of start challenging them, you know, what you're gonna do, sort of thing. Anyway, the shift manager come on with another senior officer. The wing layout was that there was a landing, set of stairs at either end, and then there was a landing above it. So the Oscar one walked down past us onto the landing above. The senior officer went the other way onto the landing above. So there's 4 of us now, yeah? They're not good odds for prisoners. Boom, music comes on, the wing starts, goes back to normal. No one's staring, it's done. Whatever was going to happen isn't happening that night. And that's what it's like. The odds are never going to be good.
And it seems ridiculous that people are willing to put themselves in that situation as a prison officer, because, I mean, what's the pay like for doing this?
When I was in the private sector, so if you go back to 2004, it was round about 22,000, but you had to be there for 2 years for that. You started on 18, yeah? However, if I tell you my last 3 P60s were 36, 37 and 38,000, that was overtime. I doubled my money working overtime. In the public sector when I was there, again, it was structured over the period of time. I started on 17 grand. After 5 years, I was on near enough 30 grand. Now it's back down to 22,000. They've cut the pay, cut the pensions, extended the period you have to work. It's now 68 to get your pension as a prison officer.
And do you think that's one of the issues with recruitment at the moment in the prison service?
Well, it is the thing. People of a certain age are going to know what the prison service is. Yeah. At the minute, the people who are recruiting are very young. I would imagine, not knowing about prison, maybe naivety, no life experience, 22,000 to an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old will be a lot of money in respect to what they can get elsewhere. So very young people applying, and they are employing very young people. So it's not so much recruitment, it's retaining them, because once they get in there, there's no mentoring like there used to be. There's no experienced staff anymore. You know, they will come out of training, they will get a set of keys, and it'll be like, right, on your way, get on with it. And pre-COVID, prisoners have been probably locked up from about 215. You know, 215 it started, where there weren't enough staff throughout the prison system, up to pre-COVID, 219, 220. They were going in 23-hour bang up a lot of prisons because they had no staff. COVID, obviously, the whole world's been locked down, and now they remain locked down. So very, very hostile environment. You could say it's bubbling under the surface. At the minute, there's no mass amount of prisoners out to cause problems. But the problem is, as a prison officer, the hardest thing is learning how to deal with people and how to react in incidents. And they're not seeing that because they're not interacting with people.
Sorry, I was going to ask, you speak in your book about that, about how you interact with prisoners. And even in the anecdote you just told us where you're facing 80-odd men, it seems like psychology is quite a huge part of your job.
Right, okay. So dynamic security, staff prisoner relationships, yeah. You will have decided before, you know, obviously if you've read the book, but you'll know me pretty well. I realized that early doors. But you're within two minutes of meeting me, you think, you know, you will think this guy can talk for Britain. but you know the sort of person I am. So I've got skills. I can talk. I'm confident. I've got a presence. I'm a big lad. I work with prison officers who've been in the job 30 odd years who were terrified. They just made up the numbers. They had no interpersonal skills. A lot of them, when you work with them, you had to manage them, even as a new officer. There is no ideal person for that job. I work with officers who were way different than me. If the whole prison had been staffed with them, there'd have been trouble. However, it's a team effort, if you know what I mean. So if we're in a situation like that, if I was in a situation on K-Wing and I got 3 lads, you know, ready to knock my teeth out or whatever, and somebody there with me, they might be stood well back. They might go over to an alarm bell ready to press it. Not everyone. In fact, most people are not fighters. However, you know, I might have a lass on the other shoulder. You know, why are you being like that with Mr. Samworth? You know, Mr. Samworth's all right, you know, chipping in. So I'm on top note, I'm eyeballing him. This officer's, and it's that coming together. So, you know, people ask me what makes a good officer. The thing I always say, you know, if you can be humble, is a great thing. Respect, you know, people always saying respect is earned. In prison, you can't do that. If I run into someone and I don't know them, you know, you've got to deal with that. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they're angry at shouting at me, you know, I want to know why. What's your problem? If you're reasonable, the voice of reason, there isn't many prisoners I've come across, even some of the really bad ones, who you don't win round. And once they start to know who you are, you know, on K-Wing, I'd be on K-Wing, there's 200 eyes watching you all day when they're out. So they see me interacting with people. They know if they want something sorting, I'm going to do that, come to me. If the lad I'm on with is lazy and doesn't do jobs, they're not going to go to him. They're going to come to me. And that's how it works, the sort of staff-prisoner relationships. Now, you know, I've got friends who are in the job. There's staff who've been in three years now, and they've never had interactions with prisoners. It's all sort of task orientated. They'll let a few out for exercise. They'll let a few out for phone calls. They've not had them all on a landing, you know, where you're speaking and walking amongst them, hundreds of interactions. And so they haven't got them relationships. And for me, that makes it really, really dangerous.
Yeah, you think it's going to, as soon as people are allowed out, it could all kick off.
I honestly don't believe, sadly, it will get back to having people out on landings. My belief is now, if the prison service had enough staff, so tomorrow, every prison in the country could go to the prison and say, right, you're getting 2 hours out every day. Within a few days, you know, it'd calm down. A lot of animosity and anger would go, because when they're out, they can have a shower, they can talk to the mates, they can get up to no good, getting what they're going to get, because it does happen. They get to know the staff, you know, not straight away, but as it is now. I mean, we talk about 23-hour bang up. There's lads that are locked up for 3 days, 72-hour bang up. You might get a shower and an exercise one day, and then they're locked up for another 2 days. And we all know being locked up, solitary confinement, mental health issues, not good.
Yeah.
So what do you think, and how do you feel when the media and portrays prison as a holiday camp?
I've had plenty of people with this. So, you know, if that was your belief, you know, you're going to holiday camp, yeah. It's very cheap, yeah. You can't pick your meals. I'm going to put you in a little chalet with someone you don't know. You're not going in with a family member. That person might be a drug addict, they might be a murderer, they might be a rapist, yeah. But once you're in that chalet, you're not coming out for entertainment. I'm going to leave you in there for 2 days, yeah. Quality of food, phone calls in prison, super expensive. Canteen, which is what prisoners buy with money the family send them or money they earn, is super expensive. A shower gel in any generic supermarket, 99p, they might pay £3 for that. So this holiday camp that they go on about, and the other thing is, there's a lot of drugs in there. It's become super violent. You know, go and spend one day, I challenge you, in your family bathroom. Take a good book, go in the family bathroom for a full day, and then tell me about that holiday camp.
And focusing on drugs in prison is well publicised. There are drugs in prison. Lots of clients I've spoken to have told me that it's easier to get drugs in prison than outside.
Of course it is.
How are they getting in?
People's back passages. You know, every prisoner, or majority who are going to court, who know they're going to prison, they will take things in with them. Get very rich now. You go in, your back passage full of spice or something like that, you can make thousands of pounds. More corruption now. You know, the prison service aren't going to give you figures or whatever. You've got a young, naive, uneducated, no life experience workforce. More than money or good looks, charm. A lot of prisoners that have charm, they will charm people. They will offer people lots of money. So a lot of drugs are getting taken in. The other thing is, you know, as many ways as I could name, there'd be 10 times that many. You're never going to stop it. However, at the minute, drug use is probably the highest it's ever been. And for me, it's supply and demand. People are locked up. I know lads who just got out who have used drugs, have used spice for the first time in their lives, down to boredom. So if people were out, like they used to be out on K-Wing, you know, you will always get an element that will use drugs. Vast majority of them lads won't be using anything. I do firmly believe that.